Zero Calorie Marketing is a podcast created for marketers by marketers. In this podcast, we cover everything from marketing, philosophy, life, and whatever else that comes in between. We ask our guests about their current marketing struggles, how they overcame their biggest hurdles in their career, as well as tips and tricks listeners may be able to take away. Without further ado, let's get to it. Today, I'm joined by Fiona Stevens, Head of Marketing at Lowe's. Fi, as she is better known to her friends, has been in marketing almost all of her professional career, and she has seen it all and done it all. Not suggesting anything, obviously, in terms of age or that kind of thing, because that would just be wrong in today's day and age. But before that, she was at the University of Southampton, where she studied English, sales, kitesurf, and e-mentored people. So I'm curious to find out what that actually means. So welcome to the show, Fi.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
So firstly, what is e-mentoring?
Actually, I guess it was a bit of a look forward as to what life might have looked like for the last couple of years. But it was just building relationships with other people within the university and mentoring them, providing advice, mainly over email, actually, but without the kind of face-to-face, slightly more intimidating side of things.
So these were like fellow students, or were they people that you mentored from outside the university? I'm just really curious. Curiosity, nothing to do with the podcast.
Yeah, I think from memory, it's a very long time ago. But from memory, I think it was when I was in my third year and they were maybe first year students who weren't quite adjusting well or hadn't figured out how to balance studying or to work more independently than you have to at school. So really just providing sort of, when it was me, this is what I did to get around that problem. That sort of advice.
Well, now when you say e-mentoring or meeting up person, like that, it doesn't mean anything to us because that's what we do. It's what we're doing here now.
Exactly.
When I was at uni, someone said, "Oh, I'm an e-mentor," I'd be like, "What? What are you talking about?"
Yeah, now I think about it would have been over email as well, because the tools we didn't have Slack, we didn't have Zoom, we might have had Skype at that point, but it was very much email. The E stood for email at that point.
Literally, like asynchronous conversation that you kind of message, you wait for the other person to come back.
The dark ages.
Honestly, I remember writing to my lecturer saying, "Can I have an extension on my dissertation, please? Or can I make a call for it?" Then be like 2 days later, the weight of terror. And also, one thing I was talking to my colleague about this. He was born with a mobile in his hand. When I was at uni, when you said to someone, "Okay, let's meet at 3 at this cafe," you'd get there at 3 because, you wouldn't necessarily want to waste your credit on sending someone a text message. Whereas now, if you're running late, I'm running late. It's one of these things.
What I don't understand is how we got to the campus in the first place, because Google Maps wasn't a thing. So how did I get anywhere? Because now, whether it's a bus, a tube, a train, or just walking, I can't do it by myself. I need Google Maps to show me where to go. So how on earth did I get myself from A to B back then?
I remember taking pictures on my crappy phone of a map to say, "Okay, here's what I need to get to, here's what I need to get to." And I'll just follow the picture rather than, so it's like a really, really early version of Google Maps that I used to create myself. But then, I do still have A to Z, a London A to Z, so I
do you?
And yeah, I cannot go anywhere without my city map or phone, or on my phone or Google Maps. This is the wonders of technology. Maybe in 10 years' time, we'll be wondering, how did we ever not get without, Web3 or or whatever that may be. Whatever these mad scientists are working on right now. So for the audience, who are you and what do you do?
Yes, I'm Fiona Stevens. I'm currently the head of marketing at Loyalty Line. We're a data-driven loyalty and engagement platform. And I work a lot with e-commerce merchants, basically helping them use loyalty programs as a way to drive sustainable growth. So at a time when things like privacy updates are making it a lot harder to reach your customers or to acquire new ones, cost of living crisis is making it very hard to sort of keep those sales coming in, really looking at helping merchants to look at their existing customer base and say, okay, how do we squeeze a bit more out of this? How can we use a loyalty program in a way that's much more than just a points and rewards thing, but actually building a brand community, building something that represents your brand that people want to engage with on a long-term basis.
Wow. And, we'll put a link to Loyalty Lounge for anyone who's in e-commerce who wants to find out more. Because, you've been there for, I think, about 3-4 years now. And
just over 4 years, yeah.
It's one of the things where, you've probably seen the companies from not startup as in like completely, 2-3 people, but you've seen it grow even in this 4-year period. What's been the biggest thing that you've seen or you noticed since first time, the first year that you're there to what's happening now?
I think marketing has changed beyond recognition in that time, to be honest. And we've gone from a place where data was just really freely available. There was no asking an app not to track on your phone. There was no GDPR. There was nothing stopping a marketer from having a gold mine of data that they could use. And today, it's different for us as a company, and it's different for the companies that we work with as well. But yeah, people are switching off and opting out now. So you really have to make sure that you've got something interesting and compelling to say. Otherwise, you're not going to get the opportunity to talk to people. So I think it's interesting because obviously we've gone from a marketing team of 1 to a marketing team of 10. But although we've grown a team, our options are narrowing at the same time. Or we're having to be a lot smarter about what we do and where we invest because we don't have the same wealth of data that we had previously.
Do you think not having the access to data makes you want to kind of trust your gut or hunches more, or as in like it encourages you to do that more so than you would if you had, the numbers of, let's say, the latest campaign that you ran?
I think it makes you ask smarter questions. So whereas before you might have gone on vanity metrics, like just focus purely on open rate and click rate, now you have to look far further down the funnel that and say, okay, we sent an email around this thing, how many installs or how many downloads or how much. I think it's forcing us to look at metrics that are actually a lot more important and a lot more tangible rather than focusing on the vanity metrics at the top of the funnel.
Oh, that's interesting. Because we're running our email campaign at the moment, and this is very, very pertinent. In terms of, we've got 3 different versions. We're going to probably add a few more A/B tests on the subject line and change the messages and see what actually literally gets us our SQLs and MQLs ready. But that's I should ask you for some advice after this. It's really a ruse for me to ask for free advice from people like yourself. So in terms of, you studied English at Southampton. How did you actually, and from what I could see, on your LinkedIn, you have worked within marketing. Is it something? A lot of marketers that I speak to are like, I fell into it. How did you, what was your first proper marketing gig actually like, and how did you get into it?
I'm afraid I'm going to tell you very, very similar. I really did just fall into it. It was completely by accident. I was, as you said, quite a typical clueless student studying English literature because I didn't know what else to do. I had no idea what I wanted to do, and that seemed quite broad. My dreams of being an Olympic sailor had already drifted quite a long way away when I discovered the university bar. So I was working part-time in a very admin-based job, and I was talking to my boss at the time about something, and she just turned around and said, you need to work in PR. I had no idea what PR was, but I thought, okay, if you say I'll be good at it, I'll go try it. And when I graduated, I went off to do my first job, which was an unpaid internship in sports PR. It was definitely a hard 3 months, and there was a lot of work for not much reward, but I did absolutely love it. But what I realized was that PR was a bit too much like sales, and I didn't have what it took to be a salesperson, but I really did love the branding and the messaging side. I loved the fact that with PR, you're taking a brand story and pushing it out to the world. And I realized that actually slightly upstream of that, there's marketing, which is where you get to actually create that brand and figure out how you want to talk about it and what the story behind it is. And so taking a step backwards into that marketing space seemed like the next best step.
And I mean, I guess you haven't regretted it because you're still within the marketing world. It's interesting you said, because, it's this kind of, we actually work with a couple of PR companies ourselves. And, I've got a few friends who are in the PR world, and the amount of time they take to kind of pitch a story to a journalist or to a magazine or outlet, they are kind of creating this story, which is the kind of common ground between marketers and PR people, I guess, where they're kind of, they're optimizing it for kind of press, whereas we're kind of working within, what's going to capture the person, whom we're emailing or messaging, its attention in a way. So there's that kind of analogy. Like within that, even within marketing, as we both have, there's a whole subset of experiences and discipline. Was there something that you progressively found yourself getting into more and more of? And, what made you go into that particular discipline?
That's a good question. I think, again, it was all relatively accidental and just where the right jobs were. But everything I've done has been quite brand and content related. So my first paying role, I guess, was in an SEO agency, doing a lot of copywriting. And that was in the days of keyword stuffing. How many times can you use the phrase holiday in the Bahamas in an article, things like that. And after that, I went in to do in-house marketing at a PR agency, and the agency after that was content. So I've sort of always been quite B2B focused and always been looking at the content side of things and how you create the content that works and push it out either for a brand exercise or an SEO exercise. So I think it's that organic piece that I've always been quite attached to.
Yeah, I was talking to someone the other day and they were like, there is no digital marketing. It's just marketing. This is just the world we live in, isn't it? It's this kind of thing where, SEO people I speak to are saying they invest in content. There's no keyword stuffing, or gone are the days of anchor texts and, buying up backlinks, and then, suddenly you get a lot of traffic to your website. We were there with our previous company, and that's another story in itself. And you just actually literally have to work hard. Another thing is you also run a lot of webinars for Logside. You're a very accomplished public speaker. What is your secret?
I don't know if I go that far. I think it helps that I love the topic that I get to talk about. I am a consumer. I buy on e-commerce websites all the time, and I know when I've had a good or a bad experience. So it's very easy for me to talk about e-commerce because I'm an end user. And I think webinars are a fantastic bridge between the kind of organic content providing something really useful for your customers to actually the lead generation piece as well. It's a really nice win-win situation. If you do it right, you can give someone really valuable insight, but you can also get the lead generation piece ticked off as well.
Yeah, because a lot of marketers I speak to, they're quite camera shy, or they tend to be the people behind the scene. Could you tell us, like, the first time you ran the first webinar that you ran? What was that like? And and what's been the most surprising thing that's come from the back of one of these things that you've done?
It's really interesting, actually. I have to think back. It was when I was working in Australia for the Institute of I can't remember what it was the Institute of, but it was a members institute, and they wanted to set up a webinar program, and it wasn't something I'd ever done before. And I wasn't actually the speaker, but I had to introduce the speaker welcome people, moderate the Q&A and everything. And I remember being sat in a tiny little meeting room with very sweaty palms, feeling very sick, very nervous. Australian summer, so it was very, very hot, and I was just a bit of a mess. So that was the first time. And then, to be honest, it's since joining Loyalty Line, it's just become, I think, probably partly due to the pandemic as much as anything. It's just become second nature, and I think actually the pandemic's made it a lot easier because you can do it over Zoom. You don't have to stand up in front of people and realize that everybody can see that your leg is shaking and things like that. You know, it's a much more comfortable experience for everybody online.
And, you know, since running a few major, webinars for Loyalty Line followers too, do you think it makes you a better public speaker? As in, like, would you be able to easily translate that across? I actually think it runs the risk of making you worse, if I'm honest, because you can rely on your notes. You've got them in front of you. You, as I say, you don't have to worry about your posture so much. You could be fiddling with a piece of paper under the table that no one will see. Whereas if you're fiddling with your hair or your jewelry or something in person, everybody sees it. So I think we probably have run the risk of generating some very bad habits that and actually I did have to do some in-person speaking recently, and I almost had to retrain myself and had to remember what it's like to do it without notes in front of you and things like that. So I think it's slightly risky. You know, the thing is, what actually happened was we actually did some work for you guys, and we never met, but I recognized you from your webinars and also the videos that you published, and I was like, I felt a bit weird because obviously I see you, and you're like, who the hell is this guy who's just coming to me? So that I felt like after I said, hey, how you doing? I thought, okay, no, this person doesn't know me. I've never met them, but it kind of really made that kind of, it was a bit weird because, you kind of interact with someone, especially on some other medium like this. But yeah, so for me, that was a bit of an embarrassing moment.
Oh, don't worry. There was a time of somebody who joined the company recently said to me in the office, "Oh, you've changed your hair." And I thought, I don't know who you are, let alone how do you know my haircut? And it turns out they'd watched your webinar. So
it's the thing, and I'm sure if we ever go to when e-commerce meetings start happening again, people will know you more, without you having ever met you. You're Theo. I'm not there yet. I'm doing some videos and stuff, but I get recognized mostly by my family and some close friends. Actually, one thing is I do publish some videos, and my friends do watch it online. They don't troll me, not yet anyway. Not in private. But they're like, "Oh, you're doing this, you're doing that," and I have no idea who's watching the video, so I just have to be like, "Yeah, I did." So it's kind of weird, kind of in that kind of online fame in a way. Going back to what's the other thing I wanted to really ask you about was, you've seen and experienced marketing from different kind of perspectives in terms of small businesses, whereas growing businesses, whereas I guess some companies with little budgets, some companies with bigger budgets. What's been the one thing that that has worked for you time and time again in terms of I know there isn't a silver bullet, but if we could walk away from this and say, okay, that's something that we learned, what's worked for you time and time again? And could you expand on that, please?
Yeah, I think it's for me, it's taking the time to figure out what your point is, what your story is, what's the value that you can actually provide, because there's so many businesses out there trying to do the same thing. There's so much content out there getting lost. And, we can all write another ebook about customer loyalty. We can all do this, we can all do that. But taking a step back and actually just understanding what your point of view is and what you can provide that's valuable is really, really important. I think as soon as your prospects see that you are doing some of the legwork for them, you're doing the research, you're showing them what they don't know. It's really easy as a marketer to sometimes patronize and send out messages that are sort of telling people things that they already know. And I think taking a step back, finding your point of view that actually really does help somebody, really adds value to them, rather than just repeating the same things over and over again, is the thing that will make every single marketing channel stand out. Once you've got that, you can push it out through your PR, through your SEO, through your PPC. It's, as you say, there is no silver bullet, sadly, but you can sort of clear the path for your bullets a lot better if you've got a clear perspective that's going to cut through and actually add some value to someone.
Yeah, because we work with a lot of different types of businesses, B2B and B2C, and sometimes I have to stop myself from, kind of lecturing to our customers to say, I've never worked in e-commerce, or I've worked for a SaaS company before, but that's another story. But, oftentimes we go to, I guess it's similar to you guys, where you work with a whole lot of e-commerce businesses, and sometimes you know how to market their product or service not better than they do, but you have this unique perspective, but you've never worked in an e-commerce company, so you don't know what it's actually really like. So I kind of, is that what you mean?
Yeah, and I think you can run the risk of, as I say, kind of patronizing people and saying, if it's too high level and you're not providing something valuable, you just end up saying to them, you need a loyalty program. And they're like, well, yeah, great. I need a loyalty program, but I've got 5 other things to do. So, you're telling me something I already know. You're not telling me how to get there. If you can tell them, these are the 5 ways to integrate your loyalty program into the marketing that you're already doing, so that it's not something extra on your to-do list. It's something that works in an integrated way with what you're already doing. You're changing their perspective. You're giving them a new way of looking at something, and you're making it seem reachable for them.
For sure. In terms of, I know you're short for time, so I'm going to rather do these. What's been a consistent headache that's been keeping you awake at night from a marketing perspective?
I think I would say creativity. I've noticed that the longer you work in marketing, the less creative you become a lot of the time, because you're looking for ways to you're looking to build processes, you're looking to do things in a repeatable way, you're churning out an awful lot of stuff, and as a result, I think we all forget to be creative and spend time on creativity. And then you get to a point where your email subject lines start to lose their spark. Even the titles of your campaigns can start to look a little bit boring. I think that's the thing that keeps me awake at night, is how do you continue to be creative when you're trying to get things ticked off your to-do list?
Interesting. What are your top 3 marketing books that you keep dipping in and out of, or maybe gift to your team, or one that kind of really stands out?
There's a few. To be honest, anything by Seth Godin is worth a read. The Purple Cow is probably a personal favorite of mine. I read in the last few years something called The Challenger Customer. And it changes the way that you think about a brand narrative. And I do keep going back to that regularly. So definitely recommend that one. And third one would probably be, there's a book called Influence. I think it's The Psychology of Persuasion.
Right? Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. That's the one I go back to quite regularly as well.
In that note, are there any blogs or any people that you follow on Twitter? Twitter or LinkedIn that we should also definitely look at?
I'll be honest, I'm not so good with people, but there is the thing or the place, the main source of great content and really good learning for me is from Drift. There's the Drift Insider. I don't know what they'd call it, a forum maybe, but they've got such good podcasts, great interviews, great courses, and you can get exposure to a lot of different people through that.
Yeah, I went to their show at the Tobacco Docks a couple of years ago, and they spent so much money on that, and they really kind of looked at every single detail, and it was well worth going. And there aren't many. I think they had this guy who created a documentary about climbing one of the most impossible cliffs without any support. And I was actually really genuinely moved by it. I was like, what, this is supposed to be, whatever it is, I'll buy, just tell me where to go. But yeah, that was some amazing drift. If anyone's from Drifters listening, then reach out to us, please. We'd love to interview you.
Yeah, they are absolutely on point with their content.
It's just like, they just get the tone of voice right in everything they do. The last thing, I think, how do you keep up to date with what's happening in your industry? Is there something that you routinely go into, or is it something that you do consciously?
Yeah, I think for that, it's less about reading or watching and more about talking. I think you need to be talking to people who operate in your space and comparing notes with them as much as possible. So, building, I know networking is a horrible phrase and there's nothing worse than going to a networking event. But actually, if you can identify 5 to 6 people who work in a very similar business to you, and then, say you've had a bad month for leads, great, give them a call and say, well, how was your month? Compare notes. If you want to test a new channel, talk to your network and find out, has anybody else tried it? Are there any tips they can give you? I think, networking in the traditional sense of sort of introductions and blah, that's very helpful. But actually just finding a few people who are doing the same thing as you, who are really happy to just talk to you, is really important.
I know I may be putting you on the spot right now, but is there anyone you want to give a shout out to that you kind of reach out to once in a while, or kind of have share a WhatsApp with, that's been kind of helpful for you?
Oh, lots of people, lots of people within our partners, the whole team at Nosto, Gorgeous, Clavio. They're people we talk to, compare notes with regularly.
Okay. Just so quick, last 2 things. Predictions for next year. What are you seeing is happening within the world of e-commerce marketing? Top things that we should look out for.
Good question. I think brand marketing is coming back around. So as you pointed out rightly earlier, there's not really any such thing as digital marketing anymore, but that is where the focus has been for the past, decade. And you put brand aside slightly to buy ads, buy traffic, etc. And I think brand is going to come back around because both B2B and B2C customers are shopping with their hearts and minds instead of their wallets now. Price isn't the important thing. It's about the service you'll receive. It's about alignment with your values and your customers' values, etc. So I think, it's getting more and more important to be very authentic, to really figure out how you want to communicate your brand and start winning customers that way instead of on price. And I think that's just going to get more prevalent.
I was thinking about your company the other day, and it's like one of these things where the first time buyer could, you could easily, have a high customer acquisition cost, and your service or your product has to deliver for them to be a loyal customer to your brand or service, isn't it?
Absolutely. And it's not just the first, that first time buyer could easily have come to you for a discount. And then as soon as you go to full price, they think, no, I don't want to shop again. But if they've had a great experience with you and they know that you really care about, this is a terrible example, but you really care about the rainforest and they really care about the rainforest, then you get around that pricing because you found a brand that actually you can engage with who cares about the same things as you.
Precisely. And this is a topic in its own right. Last thing, how can people get hold of you if they wanted to reach out to you? Or I know that you guys are hiring all the time at the Learn Powers. What would be the best way for someone to get in touch with you?
Feel free to find me on LinkedIn, Fiona Stevens. Very happy to connect with anybody.
Well, thank you so much for your time, Fee. We hope you have a good rest of the day. I know you've got a meeting to go to straight afterwards. We will be in touch when this is all out and about and being made into a wonderful blog podcast, which is going to come out. Thank you for your time again, and we look forward to seeing you very soon.
No, thank you very much for having me. Thanks for your time. Thanks.
Like what you hear?
then check out some of the other episodes in this series or visit us at zerocaloriemarketing.com.